Hello and welcome to another episode of Taylor Talks Comics. Today is 5 Fave Friday, so I'm going to go over 5 of my favorite comics. And today's topic, war comics. Stay tuned. And we're back. So before I get into today's topic, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below with your thoughts as you're watching the video. If you want to buy some comics, go over to organicpricebooks.com. It's the best place to buy your comics and graphic novels. They have all the omnibuses and absolutes and hardcovers and epic collections that you could ever want. If you want to use my promo code, Taylor Talks Comics, all one word, Taylor Talks Comics, you'll save $2 off your order there. And I get a little bit of kickback from that. So you save money, I get a little kickback, everyone's happy. But if you're going to put a bigger order in at organicpricebooks.com, you want to save 5% off of that big order of 4 books or more, use TTC, ship it together. That's all one word, TTC, ship it together. Okay, so this 5 Fave Friday is a new idea I had where I take 5 of my favorite comics from a insert topic here every week and go over them with you. Just a way to show off some cool books that don't have to have a whole overview dedicated to them. However, with that said, if there's any sort of books that I show here that you want a full-blown overview, review of, or what have you, comment down below with that. So today we're going to talk about 5 of my favorite war comics. It's a genre that I love all throughout history and all the different interpretations and way it's been done. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This first book is called Atlas at War. This was a Dead Reckoning release in conjunction with Marvel. And it collects all of the, or not all of these, sorry, I shouldn't say that. A lot of the Atlas comic books. And this book is beautifully restored as well. It's done by Dead Reckoning, so it's not the usual Marvel treatment as far as like their Masterworks treatment where they have like the oversaturated colors and stuff I always complain about. This is lovingly restored by Alan Harvey, who is the gentleman that's also restoring the Atlas line over at Fantagraphics that they're doing, where they have Marvel has farmed out their Atlas comics to them. Alan Harvey is doing that. And then Dr. Michael Vassallo is one of the utmost historians on the Atlas era in particular, and he's doing some of those introductions for Fantagraphics as well. So this book has a really great table of contents showing you who the art's by, what issue of comics these stories appeared in, and what month they came out. So all the historical context you could want in a table of contents with page numbers, because this is just collecting certain stories from artists. And you can see on the front here, it names Russ Heath, Stan Lee, Gene Colan, Sid Shores, John Severin, Don Heck, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, and more. So we get a great introduction here by Dr. Vassallo, talking all about, like, anytime I get to read an introduction by him, it's great, because the Atlas era really is an era that's not talked about a lot. Like, when we talk about Marvel Comics, which I should say, before Marvel Comics became Marvel Comics, that publisher was named Atlas. So same publisher, just changed their name. But there's not a lot of stuff you learn about the Atlas era in particular, unfortunately. So Dr. Vassallo, and anytime he writes an introduction or a book or anything, I'm definitely seeking it out to try to get some more knowledge on the topic. So yeah, this book's out of print. I think you can still find it pretty easily. But these war stories are still, they will be reprinted in one of the upcoming Fantagraphics releases, I believe. And I don't know what the contents would be in that, if it's the exact same contents or just some of the same contents. And I do have to go back and forth, because back then, unfortunately, they didn't put credits on the actual issues. So that's why the table of contents is handy. Because this one is done by, I believe, Gene Colan. Okay, I was going to say, this looks like Gene Colan with the rain coming down. And the faces for sure, like all the I don't know. I'm not an art expert. The like the brush lines you see on his face, look like Gene Colan lines. But this was still a time when a lot of these comics creators were war veterans themselves. Like there's one in here by Jack Kirby, which let's go to that one real fast. I believe that's Ring of Steel right here, 218. And oh, here it is right here. So you get some early Jack Kirby in here, which I believe actually this same. I could do a comparison of the art restoration later when there's actually the same issues in a book I'm going to show you off in the same chapter. So yeah, it's early Kirby work, which you still get like the figure drawing of like always in action, always in movement, great fight choreography by Kirby, and you get like one of my favorite Kirby tropes. Sorry, one of my favorite Kirby tropes of like the screaming faces at the camera, like close up, to really bring you into the action. And then who else should we look at here? Jerry Robinson of Batman fame. Oh, Psycho by Joe Maneely. So Joe Maneely, I know Fantagraphics just put a collection out by him, with his artwork in it recently, an artist edition, I think. I don't know if this is in there or not because I still need to pick that up. But Joe Maneely was a really great artist in this era of Marvel, and sadly passed away when he was only 32, I think. And it's kind of like one of the great what ifs is, what if Joe Maneely had been there during the Marvel Silver Age? How different would it have been? And then I think there's a Steve Ditko. Russ Heath is great too. He did a lot of work with EC Comics. Werner Roth. Bernie Creakston. It's amazing. Trying to find a Ditko here. Oh, John Severin. Let's look at him. So John Severin is 156. John Severin, his war comics, he did a lot of war comics with EC Comics as well. He kind of took over EC Comics' war comics line from Harvey Kurtzman whenever Kurtzman left. But John Severin was very much known for his very accurate depictions of like uniforms and artillery and vehicles. Like that was one thing that really he prided himself on, was the this is another Severin, the accuracy of all that stuff. So it even got to the point where I think some like historians were looking at his comics to see what uniforms and stuff looked like, because they knew that they could count on John Severin to have accurate depictions of all of them. So yeah, in this era of comics, all these, what I was saying earlier is all these guys were like war veterans. So they had like true to life experiences in war, and some of these stories are a bit harrowing because of that. They're not the rah-rah, go America kind of war stories that we would get from Marvel in the next decade. And this is kind of before that, where they're still showing off the harrowing aspects. However, they would not be the most harrowing war stories, which are my favorite, because those are the realistic aspects of war, where there are no winners. It's all losers, no matter what side you're on. It's truly just a matter of men and women putting their lives literally on the line. And that's what Harvey Kurtzman really put together for EC Comics when he started the war comics lines of Frontline Combat and Two-Fisted Tales. He was the editor on those books. This is Corpse of the Imjin. This is an EC Comics, the EC Artist Library from Fantagraphics. I collect these quite a bit, or every volume of these. I have a video on my channel showing off all the volumes, and I have plenty of other videos showing off volumes from this line as well, if you're interested in that. But this is like the first one that was released also of this line from Fantagraphics. And this collects all the Harvey Kurtzman war comics. I believe all the ones that he drew are collected in here, as well as some that he just wrote, because he would write all of the war comics himself when he was an editor, and then he had other artists draw them. But at the beginning, he wrote and drew all of these, and a lot of times when he wrote them too, he would do the layouts, which I think this volume might collect some of those layouts. Maybe. I know I have some book where it has like layouts in there from Kurtzman. Maybe not. But he would do the layouts for the artists, so they just draw on top of them. Which makes a lot of sense because he's a really great storyteller. So we have this one that's much older times. It really like slowly goes into the like more present World War era kind of depictions here. And here we go, right here. So Kurtzman was a master cartoonist. Like I have a video on him showing off Kurtzman books too, if you're interested in that. But what he wanted to depict war was not any sort of like pro-America kind of war is necessary kind of messaging. It was quite the opposite. It was kind of these guys find themselves going to war because they have no other choice in life. And then these horrible things happen to them. Like it's not fun to be in war. Even to the point to where it's like the minutia of a soldier standing in puddles of water for hours and hours and their socks just soaking in mud. Like that, for the minutia of that to literally seeing like your brother at arms dying next to you and having to move on beyond that. That's the kind of harrowing tales that Harvey Kurtzman would tell in these EC comics. And this is when it's not Kurtzman art anymore. But he would still do the layouts for him. Who's the artist in this one? 110, let's see. Dave Berg. Okay, I was going to say I didn't recognize that art. I wonder if Dave Berg, let me know in the comments. I'm not a EC historian, but did he go on to do Mad Magazine? He looks like a Mad Magazine artist. But yeah, really, really great stuff. This one does collect covers, which not a lot of these Fantagraphics collections do. Especially not in color. There's not really a lot of color, because these are all collected in black and white, obviously. If you want the colored editions, you can go to Dark Horse. They have like the Frontline Combat and Two Fists of Tales all in color. They are modernized coloring, unfortunately, though. But these are a lot of the covers that Kurtzman did. Yeah, these are all Kurtzman artwork, I can tell. That's a really famous cover right there. That's been homaged a few times I've seen over the years. Yeah, but he had like a really cartoony style to his artwork. And like his figures all had like this arch to them. Like it makes me wonder, like if I saw like originals from Kurtzman, I'm guessing he started with that arch before he built the figure on top of it. It really, I think, depicts that kind of like hunched over, kind of at a loss kind of style to it. That's Harvey Kurtzman. This is Death Stand, though. This is another volume of the EC Comics Artist Library. This is Jack Davis War Comics. However, I believe they're all written by Kurtzman, if I remember correctly. Okay, mostly written by Kurtzman. It looks like Jack Davis wrote one, James Cooper wrote one, Colin Dawkins, but the majority of these are all written by Kurtzman. And this is my favorite combination. This is probably my favorite war comic book in my entire collection, is this, because you still get that harrowing war stories by Kurtzman. Here's a Western story. So they do work with different eras of war and combat. But they do mostly work into the World War eras, the Korean War, like that kind of, the 20th century wars that we saw. But yeah, this is my favorite combination, is having these Harvey Kurtzman written stories with the layouts and Jack Davis working over the top of them. Jack Davis is my favorite EC Comics artist. I think he worked in so many different styles. Like his cartoony style is better than anything. Absolutely. Like that's one thing that he's most known for. You've probably seen some Jack Davis artwork with some like college sports or Coca-Cola ads or what have you. So you can work in a really cartoony style, but which probably worked over Kurtzman's layouts really well, because I just showed you that he works kind of in a cartoony style. But when you mix that cartoony figure drawing with the accurate military weapons and uniforms and that kind of thing, on top of it, the realistic backdrops and stuff, it really creates an interesting combination that really brings you into this this world where you can really have a lot of sympathy for these characters, because they're not, even just the way they're drawn, they're not depicted as being like these gung-ho action heroes that could do no wrong kind of thing. They're more of these guys, these men just trying to fight to survive, really. So this is my favorite war comic in my collection, for sure, because I love Jack Davis's artwork, I love Harvey Kurtzman's writing, and if you're going to pick up one war comic out of the EC library, I'd pick up that one. Next I have Jacques Tardi and Jean-Pierre Vernet's God Damn This War. This was the second of a collection that Fantagraphics put out for Tardi, collecting his war comics. They put out like 20 books of Jacques Tardi. He's one of my favorite cartoonists also. Really, really amazing French cartoonist. But in a box set, they released God Damn This War with the other volume was called, it was War in the Trenches, which is another great volume. That one was done in like the 80s. Or no. That was done in 93. That's right. But this one is done much more contemporary. This was printed in 2013. I want to say this was done, that's the English translation of 2013. I want to say this book was done in the like 2011, like, or the early 2000s, around that era. So Jacques Tardi, his war comics, when I say harrowing and not depicting any sort of winner or loser in war, that's what you're getting with Jacques Tardi. Like, it's absolutely a horror comic almost, because you see the brutality of what these guys go through. It's violent. It's sad. It's depressing. It's bleak. But this one is really beautifully done, and it's probably one of the greater uses of color in a comic that I've ever seen. So it's done all in this widescreen format, which I think is what we say nowadays. I don't know if Jacques Tardi was calling it widescreen format. He's still alive. I shouldn't talk about him like he's in the past. But when he was making this, I don't know if he was calling this a widescreen comic. But it does remind me of like Darwin Cook's New Frontier. I had also this 3-panel grid with it. And so Jacques Tardi did this with all of his war comics. So you'll see that in this volume. You'll see that it was War in the Trenches, in the I, René Tardi trilogy also. But as far as the depiction of color, though, you can see it's all very bright colored. This is on glossy paper, which is a little bit different, too, to these Tardi volumes. It's a very colorful at the beginning, right? And then as you get through the story, as they start getting into the war, you can start to see it's losing its color. It's becoming more bleak. Now we're in 1915. And it's starting to... You can see the brutality and the violence there. It's starting to become more and more bleak. Oh, you see a little bit of color. Maybe it's a heroic moment. Maybe we're getting back to the positive. Maybe it's going to be, we're on the up and up again. But no, it gets more and more bleak. So the color really starts to go away as the comic goes on. And as you're reading it, you're feeling it as well. It's a very cinematography trick that you'd see like in a movie a director might use, to where you're so sucked into the story that you're not even realizing that that's happening, but it's pulling you in. Like a great cinematographer or film score would add to an emotion, like a film score would add to like an emotional scene of a movie that you wouldn't quite realize that the music is moving you to feel a certain way. It's kind of like this color is moving you to not feel a certain way, or to feel a certain way that you're not even realizing it. So yeah, we're still black and white, but we get the colors of the flags. It just becomes more and more bleak, and then you get all this historical research in the back that Tardi did when creating this comic. So really, really great volume. I highly recommend this one, or it was War in the Trenches. Yep, that's right here. It was War in the Trenches. War of the Trenches, sorry. Either volume for Tardi if you're wanting to try out some Jacques Tardi war comics. And last but not least, let's do number 5. This is the complete Kirby War and Romance Omnibus. This was released a couple years ago. I could not wait when this was announced. Could not wait for it to come out. Absolutely one of those underrated omnibus releases from Marvel that I don't know if it'll ever be reprinted because I don't know what the demand is like. But hopefully, I don't know. I want to talk about how cool this volume is so that maybe some of you guys could go out and seek it out. But this collects a lot of Kirby's war and romance comics from before 1961, which is when Fantastic Four #1 came out. Start of the Marvel Silver Age. So you get some comics before that and then also during the Silver Age in both the war and the romance genres. So today Rob Silver is focusing on the war aspects of this book. I can do a full overview of this book, though, if you really want me to. Just put that in the comments. But we start off with some battleground issues. And we... sorry, I think I just saw some breaking news come across my screen. By the way, I do have a once a week, every week I go live on my channel for Taylor Talks Comics Live, where I break down all the comic book and industry news. So don't miss out on that, and just seek out or go to the live tab on my YouTube channel, and you can check that out. Check out any past episodes and join me for future episodes. But yeah, so these early ones are from like the late 50s war comics that Kirby would do. And this book also has them compiled chronologically of how these comics were released. So you might get like a war comic and then a romance and then war. It's really a nice reading experience because you kind of get to go back and forth. This is a great submarine story where Kirby is depicting like the claustrophobia of being stuck in a submarine underwater, which is pretty different for a Kirby comic. You don't get a lot of underwater Kirby adventures, unless he was talking about like the Submariner and stuff, but that was mostly above ground, right? Anyways, Jack Kirby, though, the way he kind of attacked war comics was almost from an autobiographical sense, because he was himself a veteran. Here's the cover, too. And I think there's a DM cover, which is what I got, and then the standard edition cover, I think, had this as the cover. So either way, you got it on the front or back. And that's the cover they used. But the way Kirby would attack this would be from an autobiographical sense, and he would depict him as like the self-deprecating sense. Like he would have, you can see obvious characters. Historians have talked about like this is the character that Kirby portrayed to be himself, of always making mistakes at war, not being super attentive, or being even like a little gun shy maybe. And that's largely what you would get in these comics. So, and you don't get a lot of autobio Kirby comics. Like you can say like Kirby always said that he was Ben Grimm. Like Ben Grimm was depicted as him. Large middle section here is Warman's comics. I'm just trying to flip through them. That he was Ben Grimm, which you can see some autobio aspects to that. Certainly. I think the relationship between Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, you can definitely see some autobio aspects to that with him and Roz. And you can in some of these war stories from his experiences there. The coolest part of this omnibus, though, people are always asking for a Sergeant Fury omnibus, which I, too, want that. But if you're wanting some oversized artwork of Sergeant Fury that's all been restored in the Marvel Masterworks tradition, then look no further than this omnibus, because this collects Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos issues 1 through 20. It's only missing issue 9 because that was one that Kirby did not do. So he did issues 1 through 8, and then 10 through 20, and then issue 25 also, which I think it's only 2 pages from. Oh yeah, these last few issues, it's just a couple pages from each. So it's not quite your Sergeant Fury omnibus. I hope we get that one day. But if you're wanting a big chunk of it, it's in here. And Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos was done in the Jack Kirby Stan Lee tradition of having like these super heroic characters, even though they were in war. It was kind of the super heroic, like these like maddening, like blood hungry, having fun, kind of throwing grenades as like a practical joke. Tom Shirley does a great job in the introduction of this volume, talking about how it was a kind of a madcap, like rollicking adventure comic. It was like done as like everything was like fun and bloodthirsty and hungry and almost kind of silly on its surface. So it's definitely not your harrowing kind of horror show of a war comic like we would see in like a Harvey Kurtzman or a Jacques Tardi, but different depiction of war, but still fun nonetheless. Which I think is what Tom Shirley says. It's like Kirby and Stan Lee were trying to make war fun into a fun comic. Which, I mean, you know, obviously, take it as you want. If war isn't fun at all, but if you're going to depict war in any fashion, then I guess you wanted to. Sometimes people might want to just have some mindless fun with it. This volume also does have some original art pages in the back too, which for this era of Kirby, you don't see a lot of this, like this war and romance era original art. I think I didn't I want to do the a comparison real fast too? Before we get out of here, where's that war? Is it Minefield? Which one's in here? Oh no, it's Ring of Steel. Just to show a quick comparison of how I prefer comics to be restored by the great Alan Harvey. Let me see. How about I use the great table of contents they gave me? Ring of Steel 32. Yes. And then Ring of Steel was on page 218 in this book. I get a lot of times to show this off and explain what I like about different restorations of colors. So let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy or if you agree with me. I'd really like to know people's thoughts on that. Okay, so we have these two pages here, Ring of Steel, same comic, also on the same page, which is nice, because sometimes in collections they'll be on opposite pages. So you can see the oversaturation of the colors, where they're really just pouring the color into there. And this is how the comic was originally released, especially probably on a cheap newsprint. So the color, whenever they chose the colors, when it was laid on newsprint, the color was soaked up a little bit differently. And that really is an important aspect to color saturation, is what kind of paper stock they're on. This is on a really glossy paper, kind of thin a little bit, but it's glossy nonetheless. And this is matte paper, which is probably closer to the depiction of how the color laid on the original comics. Oops, sorry. So on this face, you can see it too. Like, it's just oversaturated, completely red, just blood red. On here, you can actually see like some texture in it, and it really lets the line work show more texture as well when it's not just bled over on one color. Same thing with this guy's jacket here. Having the oversaturation, you can see actual textures in his coat. Here, it just looks like plain blue. Sorry, I'm trying not to bump the camera too bad. On this next page, you get this guy's uniform here is all one flat color. Here you get a little bit more texture in it because of the texture of the page. Same with the tanks and whatnot. So some people will be like, Taylor, you're crazy, because like I like that brightness of the color. It looks bright and it's like, you know, right in your eyes. And they do, like, for this style of restoration, Marvel does a great job. Like, these are done well. I do like the poppiness of that color, but I prefer how they were originally released. So let me know if I'm crazy in the comments. Which one you prefer? The Marvel edition or the Alan Harvey Dead Reckoning edition? I think there's only one more page to show off here. Yep. I don't know, I just prefer where you can see like the actual textures of the colors and actually lets the line art live, where this color kind of takes over the line art. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what your favorite war comics are. This 5 Fave Fridays idea that I'm doing, I'll have future editions too of war comics. I'll probably show off 5 more of those. Maybe I'll do a different topic, my 5 favorite kaiju comics or whatever. If you have any ideas of those, be sure to let me know of those ideas in the comments. Also, let me know what your favorite war comics are, if you're going to pick up any of these, and give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, all that stuff. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great one.